This is Doc from Doc's Beehives, and we are recording this in a barn on my place, North House. And this morning we're going to talk to you about some very special friends that we have to have in our garden, and those are bees. Bees account for pollination of about 1/3 of all the plants in the world. And if you have a good place for bees to hang out, called the beehive, the bees are happier and they will do your garden a great justice, whether it's a flower garden or whether it's a vegetable garden. I learned a lot when I took the Master Gardener class, which I thought was absolutely wonderful, and made some good friends, one of which is Melanie Edwards. Melanie Edwards. One of which is Melanie Edwards, a good friend of mine, and she and I are going to work together. So you can do a couple of different ways when you have a beehive. You can actually go buy a beehive which is already built and stick it in your yard. And most of those are the ones that you see. They're just white boxes, and they're not very pretty. Or you can make one that's a little bit happier. And that's what we're going to do today. And the one that we're going to build over the next couple of series is the one here. And it's called Smythe's Barn. I bumped into Smythe's Barn 25 years ago when I was in Pennsylvania on a road trip and took a picture of it. And 25 years later, here we are building a little copy of Smythe's Barn. There was actually two Smythe's Barns. One was 1 story, and the other one was 2 stories, and that was called Smythe's Storage Barn. So we're going to build Smythe's Storage Barn today. So let's go back a little bit. You can buy beehives that are already put together in the little white boxes, or preferably, for me, I like to build the beehive. Going back to Master Gardeners, you know, there's something, this is how they come in a box, and they come in parts. Master gardeners, or any garden will tell you, there's something very, very special that late in the afternoon, if you go pick your own vegetables and you eat them, they just taste so much better. They're drowning in love. You grew them from seed, and that's so much better than if you went to the grocery store and picked up a bunch of them. And it's so nice when people like Mel, who's got this incredible vegetable garden, brings me cucumbers or whatever's growing for that day. She sent over last week and cucumbers and these little tomatoes. What do you call those tomatoes?
Chocolate sprinkles.
Pepper sprinkles?
Chocolate sprinkles.
Chocolate sprinkles. So they're kind of a chocolate red sprinkle looking, and I'm telling you, pop them in your mouth and your tongue is saying nothing but happy, happy. So here we go. So when you get your boxes, the 2 types of boxes which we'll go through, they come in parts. And the parts are real easy. Although I was a surgeon for a while, and I've been a woodworker for a long time, you don't really have to be a surgeon. These are pre-cut, so the operation's already done for you. And if you're a woodworker, it's easy to put together, and it's a no-brainer because you can't go wrong. Because if you go wrong, they won't fit together. So there are 2 types of boxes, and the one we're going to do first is the box that's at the bottom. And the box that's at the bottom is called the brood box. And the reason why they call it the brood box is because that's where the queen lives. There's only 1 queen, remember. Just like every house only has 1 queen, these houses only have 1 queen. And she dominates the entire hive. So she will come into here. You'll usually buy her with a bunch of bees, and you'll stick her in here, and then she will, if she's like I'm Catholic, if she's a good Catholic, she'll have thousands of kids right away. The last one that we got was a triple Catholic, and she has laid millions of eggs. And we've got tons and tons of honey from that. So we're going to build a brood box first. So the brood box remember the thicker ones? So you're going to have 4 thick pre-cut boards. One of them is going to be the front, the other 2 are going to be the side, one of them is going to be the back. And if you notice right here, it's a handle. So handles are always up. Upside down. You know to flip this one back up, so that'll be right up. And when you just put them together, you come together pretty easy. How easy that was. But before you put them together, what we want to do is we want to glue them. And these boxes come in 2 ways. You can get some that you can glue, and then you get some that you can screw, and then some that you can glue and screw. In these boxes you can glue them, and after the glue is set up, Mel, then you can screw them together. And that gives you a lot of strength. For these little boxes, when we robbed our beehive a month ago, we just robbed the super. When we took the super off, it probably weighed at least 100 pounds, because we got 90 pounds of honey and wax out of it. So let's start gluing this little guy together.
And that was just one beehive.
That was just one beehive, yes.
The top, the super. So bees are usually in just a plain little white box house. Why do you think it's important to make a fancy house like that?
Well, you tell me, as a girl, as a woman, as a mother, and most of all, as a wife, what you gonna be happier in? The pretty house, or the house is just kind of plain like everybody else has got?
I think I'd make more money in a pretty house.
I think you'd make more. So,
more honey.
well, one of the things that we did was, we did a real scientific study. Mel participated in this. And we went around and interviewed queen bees. And we did about, I guess about 50, Mel? So we went to the houses, we went to the houses that were just, and I'm putting glue on these joints right now. We went to the houses that were just plain white boxes and asked the queens, how you doing? They all said, well, you know, I guess we're doing all right, but things could be better. I said, well, how do you think it could be better? They said, well, one of our girlfriends down the street actually lives in a beautiful house that was made by Doc's Beehives, and it happened to be one of ours. And she said she tends to have more kids, lay more eggs, called nukes, and make more honey. Okay? That was enough scientific study for me right away. So we do think that they're in a pretty box that you made, you're going to feel really good about that. So there we go, we got these together. All right. Let's put the other side together. Now remember, handles are always got to be up on both sides. Look how sharp these things are. These are cut very, very precisely. Other beehive kits that you get are not as clean cut, and they're rougher to get into, and you have to use a little encouragement. But on these, you don't have to use very much encouragement at all. So we'll do the long side over here. Remember, handle up, handle up. We'll do it right here. It doesn't take much.
You're not putting much glue on there.
You really don't have to put a whole lot. The big thing with the glue is to hold it together until it looks real good and it's stabilized, and then put the screws in. And once you put the screws in, you're done.
So this is temporary right now. You just want it to stay together with the glue.
I want it to stay together with the glue, correct. And if you notice, as these little tips I'm trying to do the top and the bottom, so you got glue on both surfaces. So again, handle up, and we'll slide this in. This is going so easy, making me jealous that the rest of them don't go this easy. And look, if you see right here, See where they pre-drilled?
Got for the screws.
That's
Okay.
also, that's the mark of a very quality box. If they're already pre-drilled for you, it doesn't take a genius to know where to put the screws.
Yeah.
And you don't split your wood. So it makes it pretty easy to do that.
So even I could do that.
You think?
Yeah.
I know you can cook and I know you can garden. I wouldn't have any reservation. If you said you could do that, you could do that.
I could do that.
All right.
Now, is that the back of the beehive?
What part?
What you have in your hand there?
Yeah, this is the back part of it.
No, it's got the same little groove that
Got
this
the
one
same
does.
little groove.
Okay.
And you know what that groove is for?
To hang the.
They call foundations.
Okay.
And the foundations are what the bees actually build their honey in. So again, handle up. Yeah, let's put this one together. These go together real good. Now this one's a little hard to put together. Although they're cut and they're remarkably strong, sometimes they're cut so precise, and that was one of the problems that I had when I started making these. When I was making the roofs, the cuts that I made were so precise that they got hard to put in. So leave yourself a little leeway. So you can use, this is what my first wife, who was the nice wife, it's a rubber hammer. And this is called a little encouragement. So you can just take this, encourage that board to go in. Let's put a little glue on this one. And you know how people are. People get jealous pretty easy. So since I brought up my first wife, and this was called an encourager, remember? My second wife,
This one's out over here.
called this a definite encourager. And sometimes they had to use that. I can talk to you about my third wife, because as time goes on, we'll get to know each other a little bit better. Okay, so we got to get this thing, the key to this is to get this really square. And to get it square, we can do two things. We can use a square, and you basically just put the square like this. And this one's a little bit out of square, so what we can do is we can tilt it, look at that, till it goes square. Now an easier method to get it square, if you don't have one of these and you feel like, I don't know how to use a square to get things square, take the corner of a table, like we did here, which came from the factory, so you know this sheet of plywood is cut perfectly square, and just take two little 2x4s and clamp them down to the side. And when you clamp them down to the side, you know this has got to be a 90-degree angle. And if it's a 90-degree angle, it's got to be
Square.
square. She wasn't a principal for 30 years for nothing.
45.
45 of them, sorry. The last 15 of them, that's all. Once you get it like this, look, he's square and he's done, and he's ready to go. We don't want to fool with this too much because we want to keep him in square, so very gently I will take him